Thank you, everyone, for coming on out today and being part of this wonderful coffee and conversation, or I would say café con conversaciones, a mano a mano, brother to brother, here to speak. We have an amazing guest with us today, someone who I look up to and someone who's been a mentor to many of us as Latinos and other people in the business world here, Rudy Beserra. He could speak for himself and everything, but what sparked the interest for me was when Rudy reached out to me, wanting to be part of our golf tournament, and just the conversation we had and how he talked about our Chairman Emeritus who had passed away, Tommy Dortch, and the special relationship there, and that just sparked us having this amazing conversation today. Rudy, if you could tell us a little bit about yourself.
Definitely, and first of all, Luis, muchísimas gracias.
De nada.
Es un honor estar aquí con usted.
Gracias, hermano.
My story basically is very unique but simple. Born and raised in New Mexico in Albuquerque. My family's, on my grandfather's side, both my mother and my father, one came in from Mexico, both came from Mexico, migrated north to New Mexico. One started barbershops and the other one started grocery stores. And the story I tell people is growing up, we used to drink Coca-Cola as a reward, right? But who would have thought that one day I'd end up working for the global company? But when my grandfather passed away, unbeknownst to me, he had a lot of IOUs because he used to provide for communities. He had a grocery store in the corner of South 2nd and Bridge in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And the reason I bring that story up is because I always thought, was there any pictures of the grocery store? And nobody ever answered my question. And one day my aunt said, Rudy, remember those pictures you were asking for? She goes, I find a Bible in our attic, and the page divider is a photo of our grandfather and the corner grocery store.
Wow.
When that photo, in the corner, there was a Coca-Cola sign and empty Coca-Cola bottles. And I put that photo in my office in 1989 when I got hired by the Coca-Cola office.
Wow.
The Coca-Cola Company. And to me, it's been a blessing ever since, because during my tenure at Coca-Cola, I was able to start a whole new department. It was the Department of Latin Affairs. And basically, I was the conduit with the company in the Latino community. And we had a chairman in the name of Roberto Gosueta, who was amazing. He was unique, incredible business leader. And his right-hand person was Don Keogh, big, burly, beautiful personality, Irish guy. And when I first got to the company, Gosueta and Mr. Keogh sat me down at lunch one day, and they said, Rudy, your job is to make sure that there's no disconnect between the Coca-Cola Company and the Latino community. And they said, because Latinos come to this country with a Coca-Cola in their hand. Mm-hmm. And by golly, I made sure that there was never a disconnect. So I've been very blessed. Prior to Coca-Cola, I worked in Washington, D.C. Was honored to work in the Reagan White House in the Office of Public Liaison. And we did a couple of unique things during that administration. In 1986, we passed comprehensive immigration reform. Mm-hmm. That's when we gave citizenship to 3.2 million immigrants.
Yes.
And we also did something that was quite unique in 1988. It was Hispanic Heritage Week. Mm-hmm. Well, a group of us got together and said, you know what? I think we deserve more than a week. Every other entity had Women's Month, Labor Month, you name it. We said, we need to get our month. So we had to create a law, and we did it. It took us about a year and a half. Mm-hmm. And in 1987, 1988, we signed the law for Hispanic Heritage Month. And what's so unique and special about that is I was at that festivity in the Rose Garden, and at the signing, President Reagan gave me the pen that he used to sign that document. Wow. Because it was a team of us that got together and made that happen. So to me, that's unique. We also did something, another thing that's special. We created the Hispanic Heritage Awards, where we recognize Latinos in the arts, business, music, media, education, and art. And to this day, the Latino Heritage Award or Hispanic Heritage Award exists. They're televised every year at the Kennedy Center by PBS. And to me, that's special because it's sustainable and it's still going.
Yes.
Because we have to recognize Latinas in this country because we have contributed tremendously.
No.
So I've been blessed. Had some great mentors, and when I called and asked if I could join the golf tournament, it's because one of the individuals when I first came to Atlanta, there was a gentleman at Coca-Cola by the name of Carl Ware. And Carl Ware basically told me two things. He said, there's two individuals you need to connect with. One is Tony Flores, who used to work at the Coca-Cola Company and had his own marketing firm, and Dan Vargas. And the other individual was Tommy Dortch. And I reached out to both. And when I reached out to Tommy and told him that I was from New Mexico, the first thing he asked me is, well, do you know Senator Pete Domenici? And I said, yeah, he's one of my mentors. If it weren't for him, I probably wouldn't be where I'm at. Well, he goes, he's a special person because he and my former boss, Senator Sam Nunn, did some pretty special things. And I think I might have mentioned it earlier. Senator Sam Nunn and Senator Pete Domenici, who at that time was the chairman of the budget committee, balanced the budget. So when Clinton came into office, they actually presented the president a balanced budget. So that's the last time the budget was balanced, but it took a senator from Georgia.
Yes.
And it took a senator from New Mexico, Republican and Democrat, to work together to get that done. So right away, Tommy and I had a connection because he worked for Senator Nunn. I worked for Senator Domenici, and we connected way back then. And, he was special because, I was around when the 100 Black Men of Atlanta was created. And now it's 100 Black Men, a national, in my opinion, a global entity.
Correct.
That's so well respected because you do such great work in the community. And
thank you.
And I think I told you the story earlier about when I first talked to Tommy. I said, you know what, we'd love to do that in the Latino community, something similar. Well, he basically gave me the go-ahead to connect with somebody in Southern California. His name is Mario Rodriguez. And we asked Tommy if we could use some of the same template that he used in the mentorship program in Southern California. He gave us the license to do that. And to this day, the Latino or Hispanic 100 exists, and it's strictly a mentoring program. We try to copy and emulate what you guys are doing here. We could never compare to you, but we're doing the same thing because we know how important mentoring is especially to our young people.
No, thank you for sharing. Those are some amazing stories, and definitely when you speak of Tommy, I could see his smile and I could hear his laughter. I could just imagine. And no, it's special to hear you say that he gave the permission and the template for the 100 Hispanics, because for us, I'm the first one to serve as an Afro-Latino in this role as executive director and COO. And then now we have Sid Barron, who is our new chairman, who's also Afro-Latino. And to just see that, and we have Joe Alvarado, who's one of our board members. So I think what you're seeing in today's world with the 100, especially the chapter here, you're starting to see the more of the mixing of the cultures coming together to work beneficially for one another.
I love it.
And, and you were here from 89, so you've seen the progress. You've seen how Latinos have come in. And I know we spoke with Mark earlier. He had mentioned probably 106,000 Latinos, in those late 80s. And, it's 1.6 million, if not more. I would say it's more because, there's some, of course, that we can't count. But I was just going to say, kind of take us through the leadership values you learned at Coca-Cola working with Mr. Guazetta, and then kind of compare that with what you learned working with Tommy.
I think one of the greatest things that I learned from working with people like President Reagan and Roberto Goizueta and working with Tommy is that your word is your bond. Honesty, loyalty, and no surprises. When you say you're going to do something, do it. And probably the biggest and one of the proudest moments I saw was when I was with Roberto Goizueta, the CEO of Coca-Cola in New York City. And it was a big meeting that he was going to have in Wall Street. All the analysts, all the financial gurus were there. I was there at that meeting because he invited me, but the reason I was there was because Mr. Goizueta committed to do or to be the keynote speaker at the U.S. Hispanic Chamber of Commerce National Convention at the Hilton Hotel in New York City. But when I showed up to this reception that he invited me to, and I saw Warren Buffett and all these big honchos and, big hedge funds, and when I saw Goizueta walk into the room, and it's as though Mick Jagger walked in, because they all congregated to him, and they showed so much respect for that man. And it made me feel proud as a Latino, because you know what? Sometimes our people have to be twice as good.
Yes.
Well, the Roberto Goizueta wasn't only twice as good. He was 100% good.
Oh, yes.
Because under his stewardship at Coca-Cola, that's the value of the company that he created through his leadership. So learning the basics, he always was very adamant about showing up on time. If you had an appointment with Mr. Goizueta, you better be there 10 minutes earlier. He always walked in with a jacket and a tie. Those are the way it was back then. And I had a mustache.
Okay.
And he basically told me, Rudy, I don't think, you're an officer of the company, you're a senior executive, but I don't like mustaches. It gives a certain image about Latinos that we need, because people look at me as the CEO for Latinos. I'm the CEO of the Coca-Cola for everybody. But you know what? First of all, I can't even grow a mustache. And the mustache I had was probably so ugly that he did me a favor by telling me to shave it off. But he was such a stickler for wanting you to look the best, to be your best, and he would bring the best out of you.
Amazing.
Tommy, just his presence, when he would walk in a room.
Yes.
You knew, again, Goizueta, Reagan, Tommy, when they walk in a room, you knew they were present because they had this magnetism. People wanted to be around them, and people were attracted to them as far as wanting to hear what their advice and counsel, or just to talk to them, because they had so much knowledge and expertise. It's almost like they were time traveling, right? You had Goizueta that started New Coke. They thought that was the biggest boondoggle in marketing, or the biggest reward for a marketing company ever, because when Goizueta came out with New Coke, the Coca-Cola shares were at an all low level. Pepsi was basically eating our lunch.
Yes.
He did that. Nobody knows to this day what the true strategy was. But after that debacle, where people said, you know what, we realized that Coca-Cola was more special to individuals because it was their Coca-Cola.
Yes.
And we were taking it away by coming up with a new formula, and they didn't have anything to do with that. So before I came to the company, they had 2 floors at the Coca-Cola headquarters on the campus, strictly with people answering phones, because one of the phone calls was a law firm. He wanted the signature of Roberto Goizueta and the president of the company at the time, Don Keel, because he wanted to frame that as the 2 biggest idiots ever to change the formula of Coca-Cola. Well, you know what? I wish I would have those signatures, because they would be worth a lot of money.
Yes.
And Goizueta said, you know what? I was never that smart, and I was never that dumb. So you have to keep guessing if we did it the right way. They did it the right way.
They did. Thank you for sharing. So tell us a little bit about your, just your journey into leadership in regards to, college, and I say you worked in DC, and then I know you came to Atlanta. But when you think about your journey, what would be some of the things that if you could go back and talk to your younger self, or your Latinos?
My younger self was not confident. I mean, the realistic thing is, I had an older brother who was the first to attend college, growing up in South Barelas, and not the best neighborhoods in Albuquerque, going to a public school, having in my senior year, having the guidance counselor call me to her office. Never saw her all year for the 3 years I was in high school, 4 years I was in. Calls me to her office and places 5 brochures on the table, and every one of them was military service. And,
oh, wow.
And New Mexico, and in our community, especially coming from Puerto Rico and other areas where patriotism was so revered, and the largest number of Medal of Honor winners in the history of this country are Latinos. A bunch of them from Puerto Rico, a lot of Mexicanos, Mexican Americans. My family of veterans, I want to become a Marine. So I come that afternoon and I show my mother, I said, Mom, look, this is the brochure from the Marines. I'm joining the Marines. And she was so proud of me, right? Because she, oh, mijo, that's good. Your uncle. My brother shows up and he goes, Rudy, he goes, that's fine and dandy, but over my dead body. If I have to work 2 jobs, you're going to go to college because you have something in you and you got more to give. I'm not saying, I'm not belittling the military, but you got to go to college. It took my older brother to see that. And that's why I love what you guys do. You see that in the young people that you're mentoring. They're the future. Luis's, they're the future Beserras, they're Negrons, they're the future, right? And my brother saw that in me, and that's why I'm blessed, because I'm not self-made. I had a lot of people believe in my capabilities.
Well, I love what you just said, because it basically was your village that helped get you to where you are today, and that's the same thing we say here at the 100. If you see it, you can be it. Tommy used to say that all the time. And this is our biggest village, especially in the 30318 area code where we serve those children and families. And I have to say that last year, for the first time, the valedictorian and salutatorian of Best Academy and both Coruscant King, they were both mixed. They were Black and Latino children. And it was just amazing to see that, because we see how that area of Atlanta is changing. Ever since the Olympics, you see the cultures coming here. And can you speak to a little bit what you saw, after the Olympics, and how you saw the Hispanic boom, and then also how you saw the relationships between Black and Latinos coming along?
Well, first of all, as far as education, I was privileged to know the founder of the Spanish Scholarship Fund. He was from California. Got involved early on when I was at the Coca-Cola Company, because this thing for our community is financing a college education. It's not easy. And when I became chairman of the Spanish Scholarship Fund, in fact, I was chairman for 5 years, we're averaging about $3, maybe $4 million a year in contributions. And when I'd show up to San Francisco every year, I would see the amount of applications, and we had a big old table, and in the top were all the applicants that actually were chosen. And in the bottom, 3 times the number of applicants that qualified, but we didn't have the money. And I made it a mission to raise more money, because we need to educate our community. I think I saw recent figures where they say that Latino post-secondary attainment is the same numbers we had in the 70s. That's a travesty. But we did a study when I was at the Spanish Scholarship Fund, and we tracked through the RAND Corporation, and we tracked 100 Latino students and Latina students from pre-K to high school. Out of those 100, 6 made it out of high school. 4 made it to college. None made it to a PhD. That was, 15, 20 years ago. Those are the kind of studies that we were going through, and that's still happening. So there's a travesty going on, because our young kids have to compete against the world, and we're not educating them like we need to be educating them. Does it mean that everybody has to go to college? No. Some kind of training, some kind of skill. But we're not there. If we're still looking at 1970 numbers, we got a lot to do.
We do. But just wanted to talk about the importance of building a relationship of Afro-Latinos, especially here in Georgia. We're in the 21st century. We're going 2023 going to 2024 election year. And we see, first of all, I know that the power that they hold and the value they hold when it comes to being purchasers or consumers, because you've seen it working at Coca-Cola, and I know you've seen that. But can you speak to the power that they hold, both if we combine our powers together? What's the difference that you can see that we can make?
I see together we can move mountains. And right now, I think we're barely tipping the tip of the iceberg. Latino, Afro-Latino, Latino, African-American. Our 2 communities are not there. It's going to take dialogue like this. It's going to take effort to bring us together, because we're we're fighting the same battles.
Yes.
We're not really competing. We just want to spread that pie. And together we can move mountains.
Yes.